So the Doom Tower is just about here. I hope you guys are ready. In today's video, we're going to cover a few things. But before I get to that, let me quickly mention that I will be streaming tonight on Twitch at 7:30 Eastern Time. If you guys want to talk about Doom Tower, feel free to join. But also, I will have giveaways for you guys. We're going to have some gems for Raid Shadow Legends, but we're also going to have some event gifts, 10 of them to give away for Summoner's Glory. So if you guys have started playing this game or you have not yet and you want to, it's not too late. You can get some of the best summoning books in the game. They're called epic summoning books. I'm giving away 3 per gift. All right, and we're going to do some marble races for those, so you don't have to use your precious loyalty points. So loyalty points are used for the gem giveaways, however. But on top of that, I'm also going to mention that we're going to have more giveaways on Tuesday, which is the next time that I'm going to stream, and then we're going to have on top of that an account giveaway next Friday again, which is the one that you see right here. So you guys can sort of see at a glance which champions are on here. We do have an Arbiter, a Xavier, we have a Duchess, a Nethril, Rosin. Down here we have a Baron. Yeah, who wants a Baron? This is the account to get it. So if you guys want to start accumulating loyalty points for this account, then make sure you tune in tonight. Make sure you tune in on Tuesday night. All that being said, let's jump in today's video. By the way, I will also mention that if you guys want to see the calendar of when I stream, it is in the About section on my Twitch channel. You can scroll down under here and you can see it, alright? So if you guys are wondering when's the next time I stream, this schedule has been pretty stable for the last couple of weeks and we'll probably keep doing this for the time being. But all that said, now let's really jump into today's video, which is going to be a breakdown of the bosses in the Doom Tower. We sort of know what to expect, but what I want to focus on today is sort of the things that you can do right away to come up with, let's say, teams that are going to be more efficient right off the bat. Because even though they look pretty complicated, they have some pretty intense skills, we're going to nuke these bosses. At some point, somebody is going to come up with a team. We're going to walk in there. We're going to probably nuke those waves. Then we're going to nuke the bosses. And that's one of the things you guys might have missed from this. And we see it right here, is that it says round 3 of 3. So if you look at all the bosses, we can clearly see that they all have 3 rounds. All right, which means that basically you're going to have to deal with the waves first. Number one thing to do. We also see a glimpse of perhaps these waves towards the end where they sort of like show us going up against teams like this, showing round 2 of 3. So I'm expecting to have very similar waves than we had with the faction wars, where it might actually be really tough just to get to the boss. If that's the case, then you'll have to come up with a team that's pretty sort of like sustainable, right? You can't exactly just go in there with necessarily glass cannon. They might have worked it in a way so that you can't go in there with like 3 cold hearts and hope to complete all the waves and then make it to the boss. So again, you might want to change your strategy according to this. I will also point out that the affinity right here that we see in some of these waves and the affinity that we see on the bosses, okay? So far, I've seen Sorath as only Void, and I think it's pretty obvious that she is always going to be Void because we see her right here on the level 70, right? For the first time, maybe a second time. That's probably the second time, now that I think of it. She's Void, and then towards the end, if I'm not mistaken, we see the tower again, where they're showing us a picture with Sorath towards the end of it, which is still Void. So that's one other thing you might have missed, is that these bosses are always going to be the same affinity, all right? So Agarith is going to be Spirit. We're going to have Koldath, which is going to be Force. Borgoth is going to be Force. Koldath is going to be Magic. And then we're going to have Sorath, which is always going to be Void. So in the sense, the team that you come up with should be somewhat usable or scalable all the way to the end. Also, we have 12 boss floors, which means you're going to re-encounter these bosses 3 times each as you are going up. So if you don't come up with a team that's efficient, and let's say you power through the first 60 levels or the first 59, then you get to a boss at level 60 and you can't pass it because you weren't prepared, what you're going to miss out on is not only the fact that you can't progress and farm more material or the bosses, it is all the free stuff that you can get from every level. That's another thing you might have missed. You don't see it here, but in the beginning they clearly show that every level is gonna give you free loot. Well, not free loot, you gotta work for it, but like this is almost like a daily login reward program. So every day you gotta spend your keys and you gotta keep moving up, because this is probably a one-time reward. So you want to take advantage of this. You want to farm the Doom Tower as much as you can. So again, be prepared for this, okay? If you just kind of ignore it, you're only going to hurt yourself in the long run. Yes, it is going to be tedious in the beginning, but eventually when you come up with a good team, plus you're going to be able to see it with the rankings, this should be relatively easy. Okay, so now what I want to quickly do is go over some of the bosses specifically. So here's a screenshot of Agarith, which is the final team they show us, okay? And I think there are a couple clues in here. There's also a couple clues to when he's talking, he's sort of explaining a few things. Well, I see some poison debuffs, I see a Xavier, I also see enemy max HP, I see a reviver, and a reviver, right? So, I mean, that's a pretty big indication as to what you're going to need for this boss. And they're saying turn meter reduction is not good on this boss. Yet I'm watching here a team that's going on 1:47 and the boss is almost dead, right? And this is a nuke. This is a full-on nuke team, okay? So again, we're not reinventing the wheel here with these bosses. They have unique mechanics, but like they're still the same enemy max HP champions in the game. So you're not going to walk in here thinking you're going to totally reimagine how raid works. You're going to walk in here with Cold Hearts, Xaviers, Septimus, which we see often throughout the presentation, okay? And even if you go in with the Cold Heart that's going to do the turn meter reduction, she's going to die, you can take that to your advantage with an Arbiter. You can revive her, you're going to get an extra turn, you're going to boost, and then you're good to go. All right, so I think that it looks pretty hard right now. I'm more concerned about the waves first, but looking at how this team is performing here, this might not be the hardest version of this boss, but I think that still enemy max HP is going to shine here. If you want to handle like the poison debuffs, maybe you'll bring in like a Doom Priest, maybe a Battle Khazar, although that's an AoE A1, so it might not be a great idea with the Spiderlings. I can also think of like Mausoleum Mage, but still, poison debuffs and enemy max HP are going to be probably pretty important here, or pretty standard, if I may say, okay? Then we have Borgoth. So this guy, kind of a little bit the same thing. I'm watching it, this doesn't seem like the hardest version of him, but I'm seeing what seems to be a Septimus in here again. We're seeing that famous Vergumkar. We're seeing that Raglan in here again, okay? So yes, you do want to bring some shields in here. You do have to reduce his total max HP if you want to make this a little bit easier, but look at the time. This looks like it's a much longer battle, okay? Because of this, you got to reduce that enemy max HP. So right off the bat, I'm thinking the easiest or most accessible ones are like Rhodos and Skull Lord. Although Skull Lord, he needs to be hit, it's going to take a long time. You walk in here with the Rhodos, which was a fusion, it should make this relatively easy. But same thing, I think the Septimus and perhaps even the Cold Heart, because they're not saying anything about this guy with the turn meter reduction doing anything to you. So you might be able to nuke this guy anyway, right? Rhodos, Septimus, Cold Heart, that might work. But again, it really depends on the waves and also depends on your affinity matchup to this, right? We're seeing a full team of Spirit against Force. So I think you're also going to have to play around with that. Use the affinity advantage. You know that this guy is always going to be Force, okay? So then let's move on to the other one, which is Koldath. Okay, so always magic this guy. This guy has a lot of apparently like ignoring defense and whatnot. Again, they're not saying anything about turn meter reduction. We're seeing here a team that is running on about 3 minutes with the thing almost dead. We're seeing our trusty Raglan, we're seeing Xavier again, a Martyr again, a Septimus, and a Cold Heart. So I'm thinking that somewhere this is somewhat going to work, okay? So again, just kind of like pay attention to which debuffs are on right now. And so for this sort of like team here, I'm also thinking perhaps working with the Skull Lord, Skull Sworn combo. So he's always going to put the Hex debuff on the Skull Sworn, and so that guy is always going to die, always going to revive, he's going to get the Hex again, so therefore you might be able to cheese this boss, much like we've done it with the Lizardman faction. So I think it's pretty revealing, once again, that there are going to be some relatively easy strategies, and I say relatively easy because we're not starting this from day one. We're all starting this, for the most of us, with endgame accounts. We have all these champions built, so like it's not going to take a month before we figure all of this out. I think within a couple of days, we'll have this figured out quite well. If anything, maybe our gear's not going to be good enough for like the hardest versions of these bosses, but like for early on, I think we'll be somewhat good, right? Other champions in here, again, turn meter reduction. They're not saying about anything that would affect him reducing his turn meter. We also know somewhat like which skills he's going to do first, because they always typically start with like their A3 for most of them. Maybe this guy is going to be A2, so study the skills a little bit if you want. But if you can walk in there and control his turn meter, I'm thinking maybe there's not much, you know, he's going to be able to do. But again, I might be wrong. And then let's do the final one real quick here, which is Sorath, which is another one that we might need something a little bit more unique for this one, which is the HP burn. And you clearly see in this team right here, they have Tyrant Elixir, which is going to apply that HP burn, which will allow you to kill her without her reviving herself. I think that's the biggest concern. But like we're seeing here, 6 minutes. 6 minutes with this team, and the thing is almost dead. We have a Vergumkar, we have Septimus again. Septimus is basically in all of them. Cold Heart as well, okay? So we know we can nuke these bosses. Raglin as well. And I mean, okay, maybe this is just a presentation, and I doubt they really made it to a point where this is not going to work whatsoever. I think that what they're showing us there is a good indication. So I might be wrong, but I want to know what you guys think about all this. And also, like, is there a couple of things that that we might have missed, right? Sort of like also the materials. Obviously, the harder the boss is, or like the higher the version is right here, the better the quality of mats are going to be, right? So if you want to get the rank 5 to 6 gear or craft it from the forge, you're going to want to farm the higher bosses. So you don't want to ignore pushing Doom Tower for that reason as well. So that was probably obvious, but still, I thought I'd maybe mention it for you guys. But let me know. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Are you excited about this? Are you ready? Have you already come up with some teams? I have a short list of some champions. Again, let's talk about it maybe tonight so that we're ready for tomorrow. Guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you later.